Katya, why are you not wearing a mask? Nastya asked her friend as she entered her office. The two had been friends for 5 years and worked together. They had met at their workplace. Nastya's voice trembled as she spoke, her eyes shifting to the floor and brushing away a tear from her cheek. She had been keeping the turmoil in her family a secret for days, but it was becoming unbearable to hold it all inside. He cheated on me, Katya. Nastya finally mustered the courage to confess. Oh my God, what a despicable man. How could he? Katya reacted in shock. Just like that. By the time I found out, he had been seeing her for 6 months. He hid it all from me, and I foolishly thought everything was fine between us. Nastya bitterly replied, her eyes reflecting not just sadness, but something else as well. 6 months? Wow. What will you do now? Katya inquired. I haven't decided yet. Can you really forgive him? Katya asked with concern. Katya, what choice do I have? We have 2 children. We've been married for 8 years. The boys have just started school. How can I leave them without a father? Nastya explained, her heart torn between her emotions and the responsibility she felt towards her sons. Nastya and her husband, Mikhail, were parents to twins, Pasha and Sasha. The boys had recently entered the 1st grade, and just a few months ago, they had proudly stood beside their father during the first bell ceremony. On that day, everything seemed perfect. Little did Nastya know that another woman had already invaded Mikhail's thoughts, while she remained blissfully unaware. Knowing Katya's strong stance against cheaters, Nastya didn't expect her support in this matter. After all, Katya had divorced her first husband for the same reason. Nastya, children are not everything, Katya persisted. How do you envision your future with him? Do you think he'll leave her? He'll deceive and betray her again. He won't. I know he won't, Nastya asserted. Katya questioned, how can you be so sure? Nastya, just listen to me. Before her friend could finish, Nastya interrupted her. She passed away 3 days ago. Katya's eyes widened with shock. What? I hope it's not. Nonsense. Of course, I wouldn't do anything to her. Although, Nastya hesitated. Although what? Nastya, tell me the truth, Katya urged. Anyway, the other day Misha left for work and forgot his phone. As I was leaving the house, I remembered our plans for the evening and wanted to confirm if everything was still on. I called him and heard his phone ringing, and then I couldn't resist. I picked it up. It was as if a wave swept over me. My hands were trembling. It felt like someone was compelling me to do it. And you found out. What did you discover in there? I stumbled upon a collection of text messages. They had been messaging each other for a while, even dating secretly. It turns out they were colleagues, and that's likely where they connected. As I read their exchanges, I couldn't help but cry. The pain and betrayal were overwhelming. In my anguish, I decided to send her a message from his phone. What did you say to her? Katya asked, her voice trembling with fear. I wish she was dead. That filthy woman, I replied. Wow, although it's not entirely surprising. Katya trailed off. But you know what's truly surprising? That day, Misha came home from work as pale as a ghost. When I asked him what happened, he told me a coworker had died. Curious, I started to investigate. It turns out Elvira was hit by a car just 30 minutes after I sent that text. And now you blame yourself? That's absurd. It's merely a coincidence. Unfortunate? Yes. Strange? Yes. But it's certainly not your fault, Katya reassured me. I hope you're right, but there's something inside me that's still troubled, I confessed. Of course you feel that way. Your husband cheated on you for 6 months. It's only natural to be upset. So what have you decided? Katya asked. He saw the message on my phone and realized I had found out. He apologized profusely, claiming ignorance of how it all happened. He promised he wouldn't leave me and our children, professing his love for us. I explained. And do you believe him? Katya inquired. Katya, it's hard not to believe him. What would be the point of lying at this point? I questioned. Well, when all options are exhausted, Cage's voice turned cold and slightly frightening, but perhaps she had a point. Or did she? Nastya came to the realization that she needed to start making decisions for herself and not solely rely on the advice of others. However, she found solace in sharing her misfortune with others, as it helped to alleviate some of the burden she carried. It was difficult for her to keep everything bottled up inside. "I don't think so, but the entire situation unsettles me," Nastya expressed her concerns to her friend. Katya questioned her decision to let him attend the funeral, to which Nastya responded, "What else could I do? Everyone from our office was there. When he returned, he looked so empty. I felt sorry for him. I'm freaking out. I'm trying to figure out my next move, but my thoughts are all jumbled up." "Get up," commanded Katya, approaching her friend. Following Katya's command, Nastya obediently rose from the chair as Katya embraced her tightly. The hug provided some comfort to them both. After a while, they made their way to the dining room, where Katya had originally come to collect Nastya for lunch. This time, they ate in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Nastya wrestled with the question of whether she was ready to forgive her husband for his mistake. Deep down, she believes that Misha still loved her, but that wasn't the only thing that mattered to her. The most significant concern was their children, who adored their father. How could she deny them their father's presence? Yes, he made a mistake, and yes, he faltered, but is that something new? Nastya contemplated aloud, unaware that she had verbalized her thoughts. The idea of another woman enchanting her husband had never crossed Nastya's mind before, but now she considered its possibility. They had shared such a deep connection, making plans together and celebrating numerous joys throughout their years together. Nastya had never contemplated the notion that her husband could look at someone else. It was unprecedented in their relationship. "What? Bewitched?" Katya exclaimed in surprise. "Did I just say that out loud?" Nastya asked, realizing her slip-up. "Yeah, but I believe in that stuff. Want to check it out?" Nastya looked at her friend anxiously. "How else?" Katya responded. "Remember Aunt Praskovia? Everyone calls her that. She works on the second floor. I told you about her before. She's a skilled fortune teller. We can ask her anything you want. What do you think?" Nastya's eyes lit up with hope. She not only wanted to know about the curse, but also about the future of her family. Should she forgive her husband? Or should she pack her bags and leave? Or perhaps kick him out? He had crossed a line. "Let's go," Nastya declared, pushing her plate away since she had lost her appetite anyway. "Right now?" Katya questioned, surprised. However, realizing her friend's determination, she agreed. The girls quickly cleared the table and headed towards the elevator. They descended to the second floor and made their way to Aunt Praskovia's office. She had recently landed the job just 6 months ago. The building housed offices for various companies, attracting a diverse crowd. Word about Aunt Praskovia quickly spread, as she seemed to be quite skilled at making new acquaintances. Nastya, however, had yet to cross paths with her. But now, it was finally her chance to uncover the truth. After searching for a while, Nastya and her friends found the right office. The door was closed. With confidence, Nastya knocked, and a voice called out, "Come in." The office was dimly lit, with closed blinds and the lights turned off. Only a faint illumination shone through the open window, allowing some fresh air to circulate. Aunt Praskovia sat leisurely in her chair, dressed in a colorful and unconventional outfit for an office setting. She had a scarf tied on her head, not resembling a grandmotherly style, but rather that of a fashionable lady. Her appearance was definitely unique, to say the least, with red lipstick on her lips, brightly colored beads, and chunky-heeled shoes. Who had given her permission to come to work dressed like that? "Nastya," she addressed her, "you can just call me Baba Pasha." The woman seemed to be around 50 years old, but it didn't feel quite right to address her like that. "I'm just kidding, girl. The fortune teller laughed after seeing Nastya's expression. Aunt Praskovia sounds much better. Hello, I heard that you read tarot cards. Can you tell my fortune? Nastya requested. I see that you have some questions, Aunt Praskovia responded. Can I help you? Before we proceed, can we turn on the lights, please? Nastya suggested. Lunch break is almost over, and we've been resting for quite a while. Katya promptly switched on the lights, bringing familiarity back to the office, erasing its initially intimidating charm. Please have a seat and tell me what happened, Aunt Praskovia gently said, urging Nastya to sit down. I thought you were going to tell me yourself, Nastya replied, surprised. I may be a fortune teller, but I can't know everything. Tell me your troubles, and then I can lay out the cards, Aunt Praskovia explained. Nastya decided to be a little sly. She shared the story of her husband's infidelity, but conveniently left out the part about casting a hex. However, she did not hold back about the rival's unfortunate demise. Aunt Praskovia listened attentively, shaking her head, before taking her tarot deck. She shuffled the cards thoughtfully before laying them out in front of her. But your husband is not at fault, the fortune teller confidently declared. Confused, Nastya asked, What do you mean? That woman bewitched him. I can see it. The cards tell me. You are not responsible for her death. It was destined to happen. You had no control over it, explained Aunt Praskovia, shaking her head in response. Nastya questioned her about the future of her marriage, to which Aunt Praskovia once again spread the cards. She looked at Nastya with a mysterious expression and stated, Now everything depends on you. Only you can break the spell. Puzzled, Nastya asked, How can I do that? You must forgive your husband and love him deeply. Only then can you rid him of the evil that plagues him, Aunt Praskovia urged. And if I can't? Nastya worriedly inquired. Then, I'm afraid, he will meet his demise within a year. I don't lie, dear. I come from a long line of fortune tellers. The choice is in your hands. You now know your options. Make your decision wisely, Aunt Praskovia warned. Nastya placed 1,000 rubles on the mysterious aunt's table, took her friend's hand, and together they left the office, deep in thought. Katya glanced anxiously at Nastya, completely uncertain of her next move. What are you going to do? She asked, her voice filled with concern. I honestly don't know yet, Nastya replied, her mind consumed by thoughts the entire day. Upon returning home, Nastya found Misha and their children eagerly waiting. Together, they prepared dinner, with Misha taking the lead in the kitchen while the boys, under his watchful eye, diligently worked on their notebooks at the kitchen table. Witnessing this scene, Nastya realized she wasn't ready to deprive her children of their father, nor did she want Misha's life to end. Later that evening, after tucking the children into bed, the couple sat down to discuss the events that had unfolded, leaving no stone unturned. Ultimately, they decided to bury their past and never speak of it again. Nastya made a heartfelt promise to find the strength to forgive, while Misha vowed that he would never betray her again. Their promises were sealed on their marital bed, and the next morning, they woke up with a renewed sense of optimism, ready to face life together. Over the course of the next 6 months, their family dynamic improved significantly. Nastya truly forgave her husband and found herself loving him even more. Katya bore witness to this transformation. Though she never fully approved of Misha's actions, she understood why Nastya made the decision she did. One day, as Katya stepped into the elevator to attend a business meeting, Grandma Pasha joined her in the confined space. Politely greeting each other, the conversation soon turned to their previous encounter. You came with your friend, the one whose husband cheated on her, Grandma Pasha acknowledged. Katya confirmed her identity and expressed Nastya's immense gratitude for the assistance she had provided. It's obvious that you have a gift as a third-generation fortune teller. Your guidance made a world of difference to her, Katya concluded. Aunt Praskovia's smile widened as she gently took the girl's hand. You see, dear, I have a confession to make. I've always had a knack for stretching the truth. But don't worry, I'm only telling you this because I won't be around anymore. I've been let go again. Katya's eyebrows furrowed in confusion. Wait, what? How is that possible? You found out about the hex, and Nastya didn't say anything? Aunt Praskovia sighed, a hint of sadness in her eyes. You see, when a woman discovers her husband's infidelity, the thought of a hex often crosses her mind. And more often than not, she's willing to believe in it if someone else tells her. It's a cycle, a pattern. Unable to comprehend, Katya asked, but then why did you encourage her to forgive her husband? Aunt Praskovia leaned in, her voice filled with wisdom. Why, my dear? Why should a good family be destroyed because of a man's foolishness? They have 2 children. Let them have a chance to live happily. A woman's love has the power to heal all wounds. If this Misha is not a complete fool, he won't stray again. Or if he does, he'll at least learn to hide it better. Nastya loves him. Let her be with him. Do you pity him? Katya's eyes widened in shock. So we're supposed to just let him off the hook? Aunt Praskovia shrugged. How should I know? Maybe he would have faced consequences if his wife left him and the other woman died. Perhaps he would have sunk into a sea of despair and turned to alcohol. Who knows? But the fact remains that they're all alive and happy now. Unable to hold back, Katya exclaimed, but what about the ethical consequences? You're toying with people's lives. Aunt Praskovia sighed, her tone tinged with resignation. What did you expect? Should I have told your friend that her husband is irredeemable? And then what? She would have drowned her sorrows in food or alcohol. She would have either gained weight and felt undesirable, or she would have drunk herself into an early grave. Is that what you prefer? Besides, the other woman who caused the breakup is already dead. What purpose does it serve to leave her husband? Feeling a sense of frustration, Katya retorted, You're playing with fate, Aunt Praskovia. Aunt Praskovia's smile softened, and she placed a caring hand on Katya's shoulder. My dear, perhaps it's not about playing with fate, but rather understanding that life is complex and messy. Sometimes, forgiveness and love can bring about healing, even in the most difficult situations. It's not an easy choice, but it's one worth considering. I don't play games. I mend broken families. It runs in my family. My mother and grandmother did it too. But why would you do such a thing? Why? My income is meager, and this helps me make an extra 10 or 15,000. Is that so wrong? It's just money. Aren't you ashamed? Why should I be ashamed? If Nastya truly wanted to leave her husband, she wouldn't have sought my help. She needed an excuse to stay with him, and I provided one. Is she unhappy now? No, she and her husband have reconciled. They're doing well. So did I do something wrong? Of course you did. It was a lie. Why did you confide in me? I told you because I lost my job. How can I keep quiet now? Nastya wanted to save her own life. That's why she stayed. If she had a choice. She stayed with him because she still loves him unconditionally. Can't you understand that? If she had fallen out of love, she wouldn't fear death. But she doesn't know that. How could I not tell her? Katya was furious. That's your dilemma, Aunt Praskovia replied with a smile. One thing I can guarantee, though. If you reveal the truth to your friend, you'll destroy her family. She'll be lost again. If you remain silent, then no one is to blame. Well, enjoy the holidays. The woman gestured and exited the office, leaving Katya standing there in astonishment. It was Nastya and Misha's wedding anniversary day, and Katya had promised to join them for a small celebration with friends. However, witnessing the joyous scene before her, Katya began to hesitate. She didn't want to risk saying something that could disrupt their happiness. A couple of hours later, Nastya called Katya to remind her of the gathering. Katusha, just calling to make sure you'll be there, Nastya said, with anticipation in her voice. Yes, of course, Katya replied, although her enthusiasm was lacking. When Katya arrived at the party, she saw a blissful couple. Misha gazed at Nastya with adoration, while she looked back at him with tenderness and love. Their children gleefully played around the set table. Observing this heartwarming scene, Kate's desire to share the knowledge she had gained from Aunt Praskovia dwindled. After all, everything was fine between Nastya and Misha. Let it stay that way. What the future held was uncertain, and it was best to let things unfold naturally.